Jasmine Crockett's got another hot take. No blacks and whites on a wedding cake. The Democrats' new chosen one, Jasmine Crockett, is in the news again for an old clip where she attacked Florida Rep. Byron Donalds for marrying a white woman. Roll it, Bertha.
The fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow? Is this because you don't understand history? Or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you?
The moment Greg Gutfeld leaned forward in his chair, you could feel something brewing. And it wasn't just another late-night joke. This was the calm before a political hurricane, and Jasmine Crockett was smack in the eye of the storm. She didn't know it yet, but her night was about to go down in flames, broadcasted live and roasted to perfection. The smugness on her face said she came to battle, but she forgot one thing. Greg brought fire. No warm-up, no hesitation. Gutfeld zeroed in like a heat-seeking missile. His first punchline didn't just land, it detonated. Crockett tried to rally with one of her classic rants, but Greg flipped it on its head like a magician pulling chaos out of a hat. First they cursed, now they thirst for blood, he shouted, and the crowd erupted. She had barely opened her mouth when Greg struck again, turning her soundbite-laced sermons into straight-up comedy. The woman came to preach, but Gutfeld made her the sermon. One moment she's saying, "I think you punch. I think you're okay with punching." And Greg just stared like a parent watching a toddler try calculus. Then boom. "Congresswoman or chaos coordinator?" he asked, and jaws dropped. Her every line felt like a TikTok sketch written in crayon, but Greg wasn't laughing. He was analyzing.
First they cursed, now they thirst for blood. Jasmine Crockett is upping her temper tantrums, now saying the only way Democrats can win elections is by throwing hands.
I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. It's Ted Cruz. This dude has to be knocked over the head, hard, right? There is no niceties with him, at all.
He tore through her arguments like they were tissue paper in a rainstorm. Every time she tried to deliver a zinger, Gutfeld turned it into a punchline so sharp it left echoes. She brought noise, he brought surgical strikes. And that smirk, oh, that Gutfeld smirk, the one that says, "I'm not done yet." It spread across his face like a man who just found gold in a clown car. Then came the quote that sent shockwaves, or literally, "It's because you married a white woman, and so you think that whitewashed you." Greg blinked, then snapped back, "That's not very woke, is it?" Crockett couldn't walk it back fast enough. Her cleanup act was messier than the comment. She claims that it had nothing to do with the fact that he actually moves by wheels, she said, and Greg's brow arched like a plot twist just hit. The man pounced with precision. Her half-explained rants were like a buffet of bloopers, and Greg served them hot with extra seasoning. Crockett's big moment turned into a fire drill, and no one could find the exits. Greg leaned into the chaos like a man reviewing a sci-fi movie about Congress being taken over by TikTok poets. He shredded her resume, skipping right over the credentials and going straight to the highlight reel of viral breakdowns and policy-free theater. Watching Crockett speak was like watching someone try to microwave a steak with a flashlight. She poured volume into every sentence, but Greg pointed out, it was all noise, no meal. "She doesn't need a podium," he said with a smirk. "She needs fog machines, backup dancers, and a stage cue." The audience howled, and Crockett looked stunned. Her speeches weren't debates. They were Broadway tryouts disguised as legislation. Greg called it, even the fog machine would be less dramatic. You could hear it in the room, the laughter, the disbelief, the sheer, did she really just say that? Silence after each Crockett meltdown.
Or literally, it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you.
That's not very woke, is it? Of course, Crockett isn't the only Democrat who's opposed to interracial marriage. So, Dana, Governor Hot Wheels, she claims that it had nothing to do with the fact that he actually moves by wheels in a wheelchair, and he's good looking.
Her cleanup.
And Gutfeld, he soaked it in like a comedian watching a sitcom write itself. Every time she opened her mouth, Greg sharpened the blade. And this wasn't just roasting. It was a televised masterclass in dismantling political theater. Greg didn't just expose Crockett's chaos. He turned it into a game of spotlight whack-a-mole. Every time she popped up with another half-baked outrage, Greg knocked it flat with facts and flawless timing. She tried to pivot to identity politics, swinging her arms like she was at a pep rally for the misunderstood. But Greg wasn't buying the performance. He saw right through it, like cellophane on a broken teleprompter. "She's not debating," he said. "She's auditioning." And the room went cold as the truth hit. Crockett wasn't trying to legislate, she was trying to trend. Greg even paused for dramatic effect, leaned back, and dropped the hammer. It's giving straight-up TMZ at this point. The panel couldn't contain their laughter. Then came the next meltdown, Crockett mocking Governor Abbott's disability with that infamous smirk. "We in these hot Texas streets, honey," she said, practically dancing through her insult. Greg didn't even flinch. "And the only thing hot about him," she continued, "is that he is a hot mess." Boom, the internet erupted, but Gutfeld's face stayed calm, like a man watching a fire he knew was coming. "She doesn't just bring opinions," Greg declared. "She brings a fire alarm nobody asked for." And just like that, Crockett's moment became a national embarrassment. With surgical precision, he called out her ability to hijack any serious issue and turn it into a one-woman improv meltdown. Policy, forgotten, focus, missing in action. She could be talking about highways, Greg mocked, and somehow end up ranting about split ends and colonizer concrete. The absurdity was unreal, and Greg made sure every second of it stuck like glue.
So much for Michelle Obama's "when they go low, we go high." Crockett went as low as humanly possible by mocking Governor Greg Abbott for being paralyzed.
We in these hot Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess.
Crockett wasn't just chaotic, she was cinematic, and not in the good way. It was like C-SPAN meets Cabaret with a broken teleprompter and a fog machine on overdrive. "She needs less stage time and more study time," Greg cracked, and the panel nearly fell out of their chairs. The woman was speaking in riddles, and Greg held up the mirror. Then he dropped this gem. You can hear history textbooks weeping in the background. The internet ran wild with it. Memes exploded before Crockett even finished her rant. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, Greg delivered the twist. "Honestly, I want to see more of her," he said. "She's the perfect face for the modern Democrat Party." The reaction? Pure chaos. "I do think there are a lot of Democrats that really like Jasmine Crockett," someone mumbled. But even that was followed by, "Let's be clear, the name-calling is on both sides." Greg didn't back off. He zoomed in tighter. One guy in a wheelchair, another hot take, no blacks and whites on a wedding cake. The audience was stunned into silence, and then came the laughter. He wasn't just attacking her words, he was peeling back the curtain on her entire brand. Greg made it clear, this wasn't politics, this was performance art with glitter and misplaced rage. He even described her speeches as verbal parkour, jumping, flipping, dodging logic at every turn. "Precision?" he asked. "Never heard of her." It wasn't just funny, it was devastating. Greg was hitting nerves, not just jokes. He didn't need a writer's room. Crockett's clips were the material. The woman didn't need a podium. She needed a fog machine, a hype man, and maybe a whiteboard labeled, "What was the topic again?" Because Greg made one thing brutally clear. Crockett wasn't trying to lead. She was trying to trend. Greg wasn't finished, not even close. As Crockett spiraled deeper into her speech salad, Gutfeld leaned back, like a man watching a slow-motion car crash made entirely of glitter and confusion.
You know, Richard, I don't know about you, but I want to see way more of Jasmine Crockett. I want to see her everywhere. I think she is the perfect face of the modern Democrat Party. What say you?
I do think that there are a lot of Democrats that really like Jasmine Crockett. But let's be very clear here, and let's acknowledge that the name calling is on both sides of the aisle. Everybody does it. It gins up the base. I mean, I think we can go through Donald Trump's greatest hits of name calling, and we can go blow for blow. And I think
find one about a guy in a wheelchair. Jasmine Crockett's got another hot take. No blacks and whites on a wedding cake. The Democrats' new chosen one, Jasmine Crockett.
This wasn't just commentary anymore. It was performance dissection. He said watching her on the floor of Congress was like watching someone freestyle their own version of reality. 1 minute it's potholes, the next she's yelling about ancestral trauma caused by asphalt. She could blame buffering on colonialism, Greg joked, and still get a standing ovation from people pretending it all made sense. It was satire turned prophecy. He couldn't believe how many people clapped when she finished speaking. Not because she made a point, but because they were too afraid to admit none of it landed. It was like watching a dinner party where someone declares, "I think the moon is gluten," and everyone nods politely. That's what Greg called the Crockett effect. Confusion, dressed up as courage, sprinkled with sass, and backed by people terrified to say, "That was nonsense." She doesn't argue, she performs. Greg said it best. Debating Jasmine Crockett is like playing chess with a pigeon. She knocks the pieces over, poops on the board, and then struts around yelling, "Checkmate." But the most dangerous part? She takes herself seriously, so seriously that every speech comes with an invisible spotlight and a soundtrack of her own applause. Greg called it congressional cosplay. And Crockett? She's rocking the deluxe kit, sparkles, sound effects, and a microphone that deserves hazard pay. He joked, if you dropped one of her speeches into Microsoft Word, Clippy would pop up and say, "It looks like you're trying to make a point. Would you like some help?" And you just know she'd accuse Clippy of bias and throw the laptop out the window. It wasn't just the metaphors, it was the maze. Greg pointed out how every point she made got buried under a mountain of buzzwords and half-finished sentences. It was like watching someone try to GPS their way out of a dream.
The streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Whoa.
And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So,
Now, she claims that she wasn't talking about Abbott's wheelchair at all. Yet she's mentioned Abbott's wheels before. In 2022, she posted Beto's rolling around the state. Where's Abbott rolling to? And according to the Washington Free Beacon, Crockett also liked several Facebook comments referring to Abbott as Hot Wheels back in 2021.
And when someone actually called her out, oh, the drama exploded like confetti at a haunted birthday party. She gasped, pointed, scowled, not to respond, but to perform. Greg finally said what everyone else was thinking. She doesn't need a translator for Spanish or French. She needs one for plain English. He compared her metaphors to GPS signals from a broken satellite, always spinning, always off topic, and never landing where they're supposed to. And still, she doubles down every time. Then came Tyrus, called in for no reason, but Greg threw the ball his way like a coach calling a timeout before the gym collapses. Tyrus, I go to you for no particular reason, he said with a smirk. Even Tyrus looked confused. Is she making any point there? He asked, blinking in disbelief. And Greg just grinned, knowing full well the answer. Crockett was back on stage, swinging wildly, turning every policy hearing into a Broadway monologue. She could stand in front of a burning building, Greg said, call it a light drizzle, and then accuse the fire truck of being ableist. And here's the scariest part. Some people would clap. The applause wasn't real. It was survival. Stockholm ovation, Greg called it. People trapped in her nonsense so long, they forgot how clarity felt. Then Greg imagined what was next in the Crockett Chronicles, a memoir titled How I Yelled My Way Through Congress. Or maybe a podcast where she debates her own reflection while drinking from a glitter mug labeled Truth Bombs. He wasn't exaggerating anymore. He was just reading reality out loud. Jasmine Crockett didn't speak in points. She spoke in fog. Each word a smoke bomb, each pause a chance to reset the spectacle. She wasn't there to explain policy. She was there to audition for the next season of America's Next Top Outrage. And Greg, he had front row seats and unlimited popcorn.
Not just for one thing, I'm mad at Charmaine the guy because he should have kicked her out. See, the problem is that we are allowing our own culture to be openly racist and get away with it. Now, if a white person is offended by that, and they should be, they say something, it's like, it's not the same thing. But if you say that and another brother looks at you and goes, man, you wrong for that.
You know, they are so lost and they just have no idea how to come back. They're cursing, they're fighting, they're burning, they're lost. I said it months ago. The party is over. They've got to come up with something new. And this woman chasing a guy that's New York City. That's a subway. In New York City, you can wear a MAGA hat.
Even her press conference clips were gold, pure uncut chaos. 1 second she's talking about immigration. The next she's yelling, ain't none of you trying to go inform right now, while waving her hands like she's directing traffic during a solar eclipse. Greg's eyes widened like he'd just spotted a unicorn made of contradictions. She didn't bring facts, he said. She brought confidence. Loud, proud, and aggressively wrong, that was the Crockett brand. And the applause. Oh, the applause, like the clapping was scripted. One guy clapped off beat. Even his hands were confused. Greg swore the camera caught someone mouthing, "What is happening?" It wasn't support. It was surrender. A room so lost in her vocal maze, they gave up and just clapped to survive. Greg sat back, shook his head, and muttered, "She doesn't need critics. She needs closed captions and a warning label." Then came the cherry on top. Crockett's raise your hands moment. Raise your hands, she snapped, demanding the crowd admit no one wants to be a farm worker. And Greg nearly fell out of his chair. She was making a case for immigrants by mocking Americans. It wasn't just wrong. It was proudly, dramatically off the rails. Greg finally wrapped it all up by calling her what she truly was. Chaos in a designer blazer. A one-woman circus who turned every microphone into a spotlight and every bill into a theatrical meltdown. And as the show ended, Greg just smiled. No need for exaggeration. No need for writers. Jasmine Crockett was practically ghostwriting his monologue with every wild clip she delivered. Because in a world where politics has become a talent show, Crockett didn't bring solutions. She brought jazz hands. And Greg, he'll be there every step of the way, front row, smirking, waiting for the next act in the Crockett Carnival.